panel. I want to talk about first about how you all kind of got a foothold in the comedy world. Tell us first, you're the newbie.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit of your first comedy experiences on stage and what made you decide to make that dreadful decision to get up on stage and make people laugh?
Well, for 20 years, I've been doing different kinds of like improv sketch, comedy movies, and stuff like that. But when I came out in 2014, I felt a little more comfortable being authentic and talking about my private life in comedy. So I've been doing stand-up for a little over a year, and it's been going great.
Yes, and we just performed, a huge round of applause for that, out in the stand-up world. Because it's a notoriously homophobic, kind of sexist forum. So what have your experiences?
The surprising thing of that is seeing how little voices there are in the LGBTQ community on stages in like these comedy clubs. It's still very segregated. We have our like niche nights and things like that, but we need more voices.
Shangela, what was your first experience getting up there? Because we've known each other forever.
I used to go to Alec's house many times when I first moved to LA. I was very poor and they had lots of food.
I fed her.
You did,
yeah,
you did.
I'm Filipino and that's what we do.
Hallelujah, that's true. I got my first start. Well, before I moved to LA to work as an actor, and I started doing stand-up comedy nights. I took a class actually at the LGBT Center in LA.
Wow!
And our test out for the class was to get up at the the Comedy Store on Sunset and do a show.
Yes.
And the person who ran the show there liked me. It was Kathy Lewis. You know her?
Yes. Yeah.
And she invited me back to do the show. So then when I got on Drag Race, they said we have a stand-up comedy challenge, and if you know anything about Drag Race, you have to be careful because if you tell them you're good at something and then you tell the world you're good, you're going home that episode.
Yeah.
So they were like, well, Shangela, you're a stand-up comedian, so how do you feel? And I'm like, I'm nervous as hell, girl.
Yeah.
I'm nervous. I may be going home tonight. So I decided to create the character Laquifa, and Laquifa said, what?
Charlie. Now, you represent the other side of the pond. You played Vauxhall, which, if you don't know it in London, is bananas. People are standing, they're talking the whole time. Is that where you started out performing live?
I actually started in Boston at the Comedy Connection in Faneuil Hall. I was 16 years old. I had a fake ID. I had my brother's ID, and I started doing amateur nights. And what happened was, because I grew up, I have this obnoxious British accent because I've lived there for 20 years. But,
Madonna.
Yeah.
I know.
She's from Michigan.
No, she did it. She changed planes at Heathrow once and she had an obnoxious so anyway, Boston, we say pack the car, we go shopping at Harvard, because you have to be wicked smart to go to Harvard. So I had an ability to do accents and characters, and I was only 16, and the older comics thought it was cute because I just had little blonde hair and I didn't shave because I was really young and I looked like 13, and they just thought it was cute. And they took me under their wings, and they taught me the dirtiest jokes imaginable. Do you know the aristocrats?
Yes, that goes on forever and ever.
They're like, Charlie, like 15, have you heard the aristocrats joke? And they told me it, and I was like, I love this world, and I could drink underage. And,
nice.
And so I just started doing stand-up, and nobody told me that I should have experience before I do a 20-minute set.
Right.
So I just winged it, and I had about 18 minutes of material. And the last 2 minutes, I was like, oh, fuck. So,
you had 18 minutes of material your very first time out?
I have 5 brothers and 4 sisters. And so the only way to not get beat up when you're gay in high school is to do impersonation. So I would impersonate my brothers, my aunts, my uncles. Nobody told me that it should take a lot longer to have 18 minutes of material. So I started doing it, fake it till you make it.
Yeah. Do you remember your favorite dirty joke from back then that they passed on to you?
Do you remember Tux medicated pads?
Yes.
This isn't even a proper joke. It's the first one I ever wrote. They used to put out they put out a lip match with the medicated pad to indicate how you could soothe the itch and burn.
Yes. A painful rectal itch.
Right.
Yes. Not to put too fine a point on
That's
it.
how they demonstrate it. And I said, if you stop putting out matches with your asshole, you don't need their product. And it got a laugh. But if you think about it on paper, it makes no sense. It's not practical. But it got a laugh.
Heklina, do you remember your first experience getting up on stage? Heklina, ladies and gentlemen. From my hometown of San Francisco.
Hello? Oh, there's time for me now after all this? Okay, well, thank you so much. No, I got my start in a very organic way by hosting Tranny Shack, and I guess what I did, unbeknownst to me, was improv for all those years.
Yes.
So, but I just recently started doing stand-up comedy. Actually did a stand-up last night at the Orpheum with, yay! Peaches Christ was in it with me, but even with Peaches, it was still funny. And so I've just been starting to do stand-up comedy. It's kind of like it's a realm that I'm not that familiar with.
Do you feel like it's all that different from what you've been doing this entire time?
Well, what I've really done is I've just kind of like I walk out on stage and I've always thought the worst thing as an MC is to be over rehearsed. So I'll go out and I'll riff on whatever I see in the audience. I've never been scripted, so now to have a scripted comedy routine in my head, sometimes it's kind of, you have to act like it's natural, you know what I mean?
Yes,
and yeah. And make those jokes land and try and tell disgusting jokes. Last night I think the audience was really PC. I was really shocked because
God, that's
the audience
comedy
is
death.
The audience is going to be so
At the
PC in San
Orpheum?
Francisco. Yes. Well, because we were making fun of the sacred cows, and that is the RuPaul Drag Race girls. You couldn't make fun of them. You can't make fun of them.
No, you
People
cannot.
are like, oh, boo, boo. It's like, come on, get over it. Yeah, no, it was a very hard because I had to kind of save the act, like with Peaches. I'm teasing.
Wait,
No, Peaches
I'm curious to know what landed with a thud. What did you get hissed and booed for last
Well,
night?
anytime we read any of the girls, who did we read last night? The Ru girls. People were like, oh, Kim Chi. We read Kim Chi. We read Bob the Drag Queen. We read Alaska. It's just like, because it was such a heavy RuPaul's DragCon audience, they were worshiping their idols, and they were like, don't you talk about Alaska like that. It's like, this is a shtick we're trying to do right now. It's humor.
Coco, we've known each other for so long. There's a cave painting of us at the Museum of Natural History. It's in hieroglyphics. Did they not give you a mic that works?
No, I don't know. Is it on?
It's on.
Oh, it's on. Okay.
All right. I want you to tell the story about how you established a foothold in the cabaret world, because it's an extraordinary story.
Oh, I don't know. I'm not sure I know it.
All right. God damn it. I'm going to have to spoon feed this audience your origin story. No, you started doing your own cabaret show downtown, and you used to spray paint these stenciled...
that was to promote myself because no
yes.
one knew who I was.
Yeah.
So I would spray paint on the sidewalk at night. I had a stencil that said, Miss Coco Peru, she knows.
Right.
But people walked around the city going, who's Miss Coco Peru and what
Does she know?
So anyway, thank you so much for coming. The photographers. Anyway, my comedy is I never really thought of myself as a comic. It was more monologues, and it was born out of a rage, and I was angry at what was happening with AIDS
Yes.
and with gay rights, and I had seen Funny Gay Males, these three comics, and there were no gay comics back then.
It was Jaffe Cohen.
Jaffe Cohen,
Yeah,
Bob Smith.
who wrote the screenplay for
it's
Feud
about Jaffe
with
Cohen.
Betty.
It's
Okay,
about
sorry.
me right now.
Anyway.
But anyway, so what happened was I created Coco more out of activism back then. And then I didn't think it was going to be the thing that took off for me. I thought it would
Right.
just be something that I would do for a little while.
Yeah.
But it took off because no one was doing what I did back then, which was not pretending to be a woman. I was
Right.
talking about being a little boy and telling autobiographical stories.
When did you know that this was going to be your living? When this was going to be your bread and butter, your industry?
Like jobs just kept coming. So early on, I never had to waiter again. That was amazing for me not to have to be I was the worst waiter in the world. So
And that's how it started for you, and you started to get the outside gigs and everything.
yeah, people started seeing my shows, and then they wanted to hire me for the other things.
As Shangela,
Yes.
was the response immediate? Did you immediately know this is where I'm heading, this is where I'm going?
Well, I've always been a storyteller. I wouldn't initially call myself a comedian. I was a storyteller. I would just get around, whether it was at family gatherings or with my friends, and I can tell a story, baby. I can tell a good story.
Right.
I entertain myself with a good
Yeah.
story. Hallelujah.
Right.
So, and I have a lot of good stories.
Yeah.
But When I found out that people were responding and getting up on stage and having like a scripted, written comedy set, because I love to write out a comedy set because you can still be impromptu. At least I can in my head, but it's nice to know where you're going with the story, or else I'll just go on and on and on and on. But when I found out that people were responsive to it, and then when people would pay for it, oh hallelujah, it was good.
So you're like, we were talking earlier about, you're on the road non-stop.
Yes, I'm on city number 21 right now of a 50-city tour that I'm doing that ends at the end of June.
All right. Now you have to have a certain head for business in order to do that. Now, are you the one taking care of all of that?
Well, I actually, when I broke my leg on stage about 3 years ago doing
Okay, tell this story.
Okay, this is a quick one then. I'll do a quick one.
Yeah, no.
I was in New York City. It was Halloween. Snooki and JWoww were there. I always say they left pregnant. I left with one leg. But anyway, I got up to do an amazing death drop, but not just any, because, you know, I taught the death drop on Dance Moms to Nia, the little girl. Yeah, I got children all over the world falling on their backs. But anyhow, I decided to do a leaping death drop that like fell from like not the ceiling, but a second level. I hit a prop on the way down and ended up breaking my tibia and fibula on the right side.
Hospitalized.
They snapped right out the leg, but they didn't snap out the hose because I wear support hose. So, hallelujah, it's true story. So they ended up having to take me to the hospital. They had to roll me, you know, it's New York City, okay?
Yes,
you know New York. They had to roll me out through the club on a gurney. And you know, bitches wasn't trying to move because it was Halloween. They paid $30 to get in. So they were like, we're just dancing. But they pushed me through and the fans were so sweet. They were like, Miss Shangela. And I was like, hey baby, hallelujah, keep going. They were like, good, you're okay, let's get a selfie on the bed. So yeah, this is a true story. So they rolled my ass to the ambulance and they said, bitch, do you want to go to the community hospital or do you want to go to Lenox Hill? And I said, well, what is Lenox Hill? And they said, well, that's where Beyonce gave birth to baby Blue. I said, oh,
I'm thinking Lenox Hill.
Yeah, and I got Blue Cross Blue Shield, bitch, and they coordinate. So I said, take me to the Blue. Anyhow, I recovered. I came back. I don't know where the hell I was going with that story.
But it's an extraordinary story all the same. You recovered, your leg is completely recovered, and now you're death dropping with impunity.
Yeah, and when the leg was down, I decided, because I'm a working girl, okay? I couldn't do drag, I couldn't perform, but I started a company called Say What Entertainment. Right. And we started managing, now we manage 6 of the girls from RuPaul's Drag Race.
Name names.
Alyssa Edwards, Raven, we've managed and done things with Laganja Estranja, Gia Gunn, as well as other clients. And so we've been able to organize touring and bookings for those girls, and also myself. I'm also in the group. So I have a manager, a partner that I work with, but I'm involved in every piece of everything.
In addition to performing and being on the road this whole time, you are managing these other acts as well?
Yes, and I don't do...
Christ, I'm lazy. I need a nap right now.
Ron does the day-to-day stuff, but I handle the overarching, like creating the business contacts that we have, creating those relationships, building them, coming up with creative ideas. But I will say that there are so many opportunities out there, and thanks to Drag Race and also people who have paved the way, especially Miss Coco Peru down there who's working. I looked up to Coco so much. I've seen her show.
Attention must be paid.
Hello, hallelujah, you gotta pay the homage, baby, because ever since she crushed that cup on Tu Wong Fu, remember when she crushed that cup in the mirror? And on Trick and all those films, because there are so many opportunities now for out, loud, gay, and proud people in TV and movies and film and comedy shows, because thanks to y'all, you will come up and support and show and pay money, and they appreciate, and that's how we show that we can actually do these things. People will support them. So thank you.
Thank you.
4 for you, Miss Coco. You go, Miss Coco.
I think as queer people, it's an underserved audience. So when we see ourselves represented in mainstream media in any way, we are delighted, and that was certainly the case with you and Mean Girls, right? And give a huge round of applause for Mean Girls and your performance.
Today is Mean Girls' 13th anniversary.
You have so many quotable lines in that movie. I mean, there's so many times during the day where I go, she doesn't even go here, or what was the other one? Danny DeVito, I love your work. Now, how soon did you know that landed, that character that you played in that movie landed?
I mean, I was excited to pretty much say just about any line that I had in that movie. They were all like gems. I was like, I got the best stuff in this movie.
Right.
But I think really when it resonated for me was the 10th anniversary. Like, you know, when the 6th year comes around, it's like, girl, your movie was 6 years old. Like, nobody cares, you know?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
But when it's,
You become like Gloria Swanson in Sunset
But when it's
Boulevard.
like-
Back then we had faces. 6 years ago. I'll come back, you'll see.
but when it's like 10, people are like, wow, that's a classic.
Right.
You know, they cared more.
Yeah.
But I got this one letter from a fan who was like, when I was in 8th grade, I was like the chubby sissy kid and everybody made fun of me. And then Mean Girls came out and I go as a freshman into high school and the popular girls were like, you're like Damien, come sit with us. And it gave this guy an identity.
Because we were all that kid.
Yeah, and the letter started with, I don't know if you're gay or not and it doesn't matter, but that's when I was like, I guess it does matter. And I decided to come out and be vocal, you know, based off of my fan that, you know, told me that. And I think that is something that's moved me to realize in my career that representation matters, you know, which moved me to do Looking and be a sexualized big
You were
guy.
great on Looking. You fucking killed it on Looking.
Thank you.
Yeah. Charlie, you have a huge YouTube following. Now, how did that get started? And what made you decide to do that? And I want to address your YouTube following as well because it's bananas.
I had been using live video in my show in London. In order to do quick changes, I would just put up like a little 30-second commercial or a little video that I shot, little parodies and things like that. And a friend said, "Oh, you should put them on YouTube." And so I put a few on, and I thought my mother would watch it, and a few people back in Boston and the States would watch. And I woke up one morning, and like this video that I'd put up, like had 1,200 views in like 8 hours or something. I thought, that's weird. I've got 9 brothers and sisters, but they would have been sitting there like that.
Right.
And then I did a Madonna Gaga video, and as Sherry said, who? And it went viral.
Now, your YouTube video went viral. You've had several. If you've not seen Miss Coco Peru on YouTube, do yourself. Don't watch it now, because she's speaking. But your of you playing Grand Theft Auto is a great performance. How did that come about?
The first video I made was me looking for this wig at Target.
Yes.
And because they released a wig that looked just like mine,
Yes,
which I thought
yes.
was so weird. So we did that as a joke. And then that did sort of okay. And then my manager said, let's do another one. What should we do? And I said, let's go shopping for Celestial Seasonings Tension Tainted. Because I just think that's funny.
Yes.
So we did that, and then Tyler Oakley posted that video, and that's how it went viral.
Oh.
And I started getting all these teenage girls at my shows with their moms, and it was really interesting to me. But I think, and I thought those videos were silly. Like, that's not what my shows are like at all. But I think what I find fascinating is I wonder why they resonate with people, and I've come to this sort of conclusion that there's just something about what I discovered in drag early on, and why I was just openly gay and wanted, because I experienced such a liberation when I decided to own 100% of who I am. And I've been called names growing up, so I just felt like, you think I'm a fag? I'm gonna show you just what a fag I am.
Right.
And so, but I think drag queens and people who are openly gay, they know this. And I think just an audience watching a drag queen walk through Kmart in bad lighting in a neighborhood where she clearly doesn't belong and doesn't care what anybody thinks about her. It's just going about herself in her world in her own way. I think people respond to the courage that maybe takes, or the balls that takes, and they want a piece of that.
So you've done so many large media things that you've been seeing. Girls Will Be Girls. Have you seen that? It's an amazing performance, and also your monologue and trick is legendary. It burns. I remember when that first came out, there was a big billboard of you on Santa Monica Boulevard. When did you know that performance had an impact on people?
When I saw it at Sundance and
Yeah.
the audience was laughing so hard you couldn't hear the dialogue.
Yeah.
So I thought, wow, this worked. And I had thought I did a terrible job when I filmed it, and I
Right.
actually cried that night because I thought everything had gone
So
wrong.
what do you
and I
know?
thought it was my first movie.
Right.
But yeah, and that whole line, "It's big, it's beautiful, and you're gonna love it."
Yes.
I decided when I wrote that monologue to stick that in there because years before that, some guy had followed me home. And he was gorgeous, like Latino boy, and he said,
You had me at
"Can
Latino."
Can I come upstairs with you?" And I said, "No." And then he looked down at his crotch, and it was like he had this huge erection. And he looked back up at me, and he said, "It's big, it's beautiful, and you're gonna." Love it." I thought
You said no? What's wrong with you?
I said no. Well, I had just started dating my future husband, but anyway, I did say, "I can't invite you up, but someday I'm going to put that in a monologue," and I did.
And you did. Heklina, tell us about what you've been working on.
I've been really focusing on my nightclub in San Francisco. I just opened called
The
Oasis.
Oasis, the award-winning nightclub. You've got to
She's
go.
a business owner.
So, and
professional.
I've had several stars. Coco Peru just finished doing a fabulous show there, and that's actually been my focus. You know, I've not been traveling. I've not been on a big tour like some people over here. I've been focused on San Francisco and kind of making Oasis a legendary venue there. So, no travels for me, but it's great to be here at DragCon. I'm not really bitter.
And no, wait, you just did a show recently that I want you to talk about. You did a drag version of Three's Company.
I did, yes. I had to have somebody fill in for me as Janet this weekend so I could come here and do the DragCon. But yes, I played Janet. Has anybody ever heard of the
Janet
show Three's
Jackson?
Company? Yay! Well, you never know. Actually, I was telling Coco I passed out in my hotel room last night watching Three's Company reruns. So I really do love the source material. It's classic comedy.
We got to wrap it up because this has gone by so quickly. Thank you so much